Hi, this is Kim Barber with the Million Dollar Agent Blueprint podcast. I'm excited to have you join us here today and also welcome Mitch Ribak, who is an amazing man, agent, and thought leader in the real estate space and the business space. Just really excited to have you here as one of the first guests that we've had on the podcast. Mitch is, for those of you that don't know him already, he is a pioneer in the real estate space. He's done decades 42 years of learning and lots of lessons learned, as he would say. He's worked, have a passion of elevating agents and teams. He has started his own coaching company. He's led and taught thousands of agents. 23 companies founded over 42 years, including one of the first online dating services, the third paintball business in the US, which I find really, really interesting. I didn't know that until recently. Really, his career has been defined by a lot of forward-thinking innovation and the relentless drive to succeed. So really excited to have you here, Mitch. And, one of those things where sometimes you don't really get to meet great people like yourself. And so I'm glad that you're going to be here. For those of you listening on audio, for those of you watching on a video, this is really going to be a great conversation that we're going to have here today. One of the things that I really want to dive into, Mitch, when we get started, is to talk about your new book, because you've authored 4 books now. But I want to give you a chance to, say hi, introduce yourself, and maybe talk about just right away, some of the things you want to share so we can get started.
Well, I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. And by the way, I was the first online dating service. So I want to make sure
The
everybody knows.
first one?
The first one,
Really?
yes. Yes. Yep, we were the first one back in 1990. I think it was late 94 when we actually opened it. But anyways, but
Of
I've been in
course, I
real
have to
estate
ask about
for
that.
my 24th year in real estate, which blows my mind. I do have 4 books out. My first one was about internet marketing and lead conversion, which I'm known as the godfather of internet lead conversion. So that's kind of fun. Second one was called So You Have Your Real Estate License, Now What?, which was made for brand new agents. In fact, I just finished rewriting that, so I'm going to republish it. My third one is a Rockstar Sales Guide. Don't do chicken shit marketing. I can't really tell you what that's about because it's not appropriate on a podcast. But it really was
Perfect.
just to be funny. And I put it up there for $1. It's a 3-page book. I put it up there for $1, and I think I sold 10 or 15,000 copies of it. It's hysterical. And then my last book is Why We're Here. It's called The Big Lie. And one of the cool things about real estate, there's a great amount of opportunity, but learning about real estate, not just real estate, by the way, but almost every business. And I have 4 companies now. So I've had the 23 that I started before, and now I have 4 companies right now. So I've actually 27. And one of the things I've learned is most people don't actually build a business. They actually build a crappy job. And I did that. I was that guy. I would say the 23 companies that I owned prior to my 4 I currently have,
Uh-huh.
I owned crappy jobs. Now I made a lot of money, did well, but I didn't have a life. And now I have 4 businesses that I don't run any of them. I literally sit back about 30 hours a week of work and help my businesses grow, but I don't do anything day-to-day operations. So, understanding in real estate, most people are solo entrepreneurs or small teams or whatever, brokerages, and they're generally, if they're really successful, they're not making a living. I mean, they're not making a life. They're making a living, but not a life. There's a
Right.
big difference between making a life and not having it, making a living and not having a life.
Right, right. So good. I'm excited to dive into that, and I think it would be a mistake to our audience if I don't dial us back a little bit, because you just threw out some really good nuggets, and I so agree with you that the quality of life, having a life. I want to dive deep into that, and people not having the job, as you say. I have to go back to the idea that you were the first online dating, and I think I have to ask, what prompted you? Were you the solo guy? Were you the single guy, couldn't find your woman? And
No,
of course,
I
how
was
do you end
married.
up going from paintball then to real estate? So can you share a little bit about that
Yeah,
journey?
I'll give you a quick story on it. So I had the paintball business from the age of 23. So 1983 to 1989, I had the paintball business. We were the third one. I think to date, we're still the largest paintball business that was ever there. We averaged 150 people a day, and then once a year we do a 500-person game. People would fly in from all
Wow.
over the country. It was really fun. But anyways, long story on that, my partner stole a lot of money from me. We split the
Ah,
company up and sold it in 1989. Started a flower business, did well. Then I bought a restaurant because I thought everybody should own a restaurant. And then within a year, managed to lose every penny I've ever had in my life. And and so I was desperate. I had two little kids. My dad died the exact same time I lost my restaurant. It was a very, very tough time for
no.
me. And I had two little kids and couldn't get a job. And I went to an interview once with a friend of mine hooked me up for a computer sales guy, a computer software sales guy, and I didn't have I had an associate's degree. I didn't have a bachelor's degree, and because I made $1 million my second year of college. I'm like, why am I going to college?
Right,
And
exactly.
so I ended up. She looks at me. She goes, "This is before computers are what they are today, right?" She goes, "Look, we can't hire you because you don't have a bachelor's degree." She goes, "But we never check." And so I went home and I changed my resume to bachelor's degree. Sorry
Ah,
for being,
okay. I
but I
see.
had to, and I got a job in a dating service as a cold call telemarketing manager. And within 6 months, I became vice president of the company and started running the company. And then, of course,
Wow.
I'm an entrepreneur, so I couldn't work for them for much longer. But it got me back on my feet financially. And then I started a regular dating service because it was such a
Okay.
cool business. And then when
Like
I remember,
matchmasking, right?
yeah,
Like
well,
local
it was
matchmaking or
ours was more not video, but computer dating. So people would come in and they come into my office. We had a 5,000 square foot office and look at computers and girls and boys on the computer, men and women, whatever you call them,
yeah.
on the computer. And then you remember those discs that AOL used to send out back in the
Yes.
day?
Yeah.
So I got one of those. And I'm like, wow, wouldn't it be cool if people could do this from their house instead of coming to my 5,000 square foot office? And it took a year before the software caught up with my brain. You couldn't do database integration in early 1994. So by the end of 94, we could do it. And I found a company that would do it for me with a product called Cold Fusion. And we became the first online dating service. And then we ended up building it up. We had 6 million people a month coming to our sites. We first company doing
Wow.
private label marketing online. We were the first affiliate marketing online. And then in 2000, I was 2 months away from retiring with $82 million. I don't like to say that out loud. And the internet bubble burst, and I lost everything within 6 weeks. I went from really really rich to really really poor. Ran the company for another year, and had no money. I was broke. I had 3 months worth of money in the bank, and I called my partners and I said, I gotta go. I go, I can't do this anymore. And
Wow.
they laughed at me. They're like, we're surprised you went this long. And so I got my real estate license in 2001, and I found real estate. I didn't know anybody here except my girlfriend, who's now my wife. I found real estate to be like the easiest thing I've ever done besides paintball.
Okay.
I literally sold my first house in 5 days. Sold 36 homes my first year, 50 my second, 80 my third, 80 my fourth. Started a team. I started my babysitting journey in 2004 with my first team, and then started a brokerage. Like
Babysitting
that,
journey.
yes. And then it became worse, and I ended up being a big time babysitter with 120 agent brokerage. And then we moved that brokerage to EXP in 2017. And now I have 2,150 agents in 49 states and 9 countries. So
Wow.
that's kind of the journey from paintball through my. There's a lot of little businesses in between, a lot of stuff,
Sure.
other stuff I did, but that was the highlights.
Wow. I mean, and we've had a lot of deep conversations. We know each other. We're getting to know each other more. And that part of your journey, I did not know. So thanks for sharing about that. And, and I'm sitting over here going, okay, 1994, having been in the advanced internet stage too. I mean, you were really at the cutting edge of even like, Windows and,
It
you
was
know,
the Wild West back then. It was so much fun.
Wild West. Yeah. So you were definitely, in the pioneering stages. So, and say to go from that, um, I don't want to say that technology, that entrepreneur, that whole industry over to real estate, we share that similarity, which I don't know that I also appreciated that. So talk about that more offline. But
And it was
it's just,
interesting because when I got into real estate and I looked at the business, I was blown away. And I hope nobody takes this as an insult because I don't mean it to be, but how the lack of business minded people were in real estate.
mhm.
And I remember I got my web. So I started in September 2001. In fact, I started the day before 9/11, September 10th, 2001, and I started my website in December or January of that year. And I did forced registration. I didn't know nobody else was doing forced registration, which is commonplace today, but I was getting yelled at by realtors. I was on your website and I can't believe you make people register to look at listings. I'm like, I can't believe you don't.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it really became the whole internet thing that like I said, the whole internet part of real estate came from me just trying to figure out how to generate business for myself. I never really planned on doing what I did and become this godfather of internet lead conversion and stuff, which is hysterical. Um, but it just, I sat down, I said, well, I'm getting all these leads now. 15% of people were registering. And I'm like, how do I turn that into sales? And I said, well, maybe I should just send them more listings because that's why they came to my website. So I started sending everybody listing updates and I broke the MLS system like
Really?
multiple times because I had like 10,000 leads after the first 2 years. And we broke their systems. They weren't set up to do the volume I was doing. And so and I had, yeah, I think he said he had 13,000 leads had inside the MLS had
The
listing updates.
MLS.
I was 10,000 of them.
Okay. So you
It
were
was,
feeding the leads like inside your own MLS, they had like a website system and you were feeding the leads
yeah.
back in. Okay.
And then it became, we started doing inside sales agents in 2006. We were the first person doing inside sales for lead conversion back then. And we had, I mean, our numbers were ridiculous. We had a 6% conversion rate of raw registration leads, which, crazy
Just
numbers. And
very good.
yeah, 10 to 15% on Realtor.com. There wasn't really Zillow back then.
Right.
Um, and so we killed it. And then, everything's grown on. But what I learned over the years, and the reason why I wrote the book, and I wrote it, I've never written a book this quick. I mean, I wrote this in 90 days. I did a post on Facebook somewhere and said, talked about how miserable my life was as a realtor. So when you're selling 80 homes a year, your
Yes.
life's
Okay.
terrible. You're making a lot of money, like I said at the beginning, but I'm not living, right?
Right.
And it kind of really changed when I turned 60. I'm 64. I know I look like I'm 25. But when I turned 60, I looked back at my life and I said, I cannot tell you 5 things that I do with my kids.
Yeah. And that's not healthy, right?
I can't. And so so I said, so I didn't really do much with that. I personally cut down to 30 hours a week, 30, 35 hours a week at that point. I was doing 60 to 80 at that point. And I said, look, I'm gonna be the best amazing grandfather in the world because I got grandkids four now. I had two at the time. And then I started looking at my whole life and I said, look, my life was, I mean, there's a lot of lies there. Like I told everybody, well, why are you working 100 hours a week, Mitch? Well, I'm doing it for my family. I want to give my family a good life, right? That's a lie. It was totally for my ego.
Okay.
It was totally for me. And then when I started my team, I thought that was the way you go because that's what we're taught: sell a lot of homes, start a team, start a brokerage, right?
That's right.
The
That's right.
team was terrible. I mean, I didn't make any money, so I had to start a brokerage because I needed to scale bigger, right?
Mm-hmm.
And not give my
Create more
broker a split
leverage.
at the time. And I'm very transparent about this. When I started my team, my production cut down about 25%. When I started my brokerage, my production cut down 75%. When I had 120 agents, I made less money than I made by myself.
And I think a lot of people, to your point, program, do this, do that, get an assistant, get a buyer's agent, do this, do that. And then it's like, where's your profit? Where's your life? And
Yeah.
it's a good point to point out is that it doesn't automatically mean you're making a lot more money. And I can be in a testimony to that too.
And
So
less
glad
money.
to
I
hear
mean,
you
my
say
my
that.
my average year I made with 120 agents, my average year I made between 50 and 100 grand profit.
Yeah.
Like if I didn't have my coaching business, I still sold 25 homes a year back then. If I didn't do all that stuff, I would have been bankrupt.
And this is the things that a lot of people don't talk about. And even I'm glad to hear you say, like, I thought it was just me, it's like I pay myself salary and I look at it and I'm like,
Yeah.
something's wrong here,
The
you know?
challenge is, it's a lot ego based. And when you're a really successful agent, you want to like, well, look at me, look at me. And I was that guy. So when I talk about this, I'm not like observing. That's who I was. I was like, look at me, look at me. Everybody, oh, this is Mitch. And then same thing when I started my team. Everybody knew my team. When I started my brokerage, we were really well known around the country, and that built up my ego and even more. And really, what happened? I looked in the mirror when I was 56, and my dad died at 58. My mother died at 59. Most of my relatives died in their 50s. And I said, what happens today if I die?
Okay.
And the
Hard
reality is my
question.
family's broke. We had no money. I had everything I had, I poured back into the company. I had no money. And that was when I made the decision to sell the company And the funny thing about selling a real estate brokerage is that's a lie also. Like they
Mm,
offered me 3.5 million, but you get paid over 3 years. The final number is 70% of the money based on the retention of the original agents. So I
okay.
said, so let me get this right. So if you guys are terrible at what you do and half my agents leave, my 3.5 goes to 1.75. They said, yeah. I won't repeat what I said because I swore, but I was like, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. And I
Right.
literally called Jason Guessing that day, who I'd met with 3 times before, and I said, I want to meet again. And we met. And for him, the biggest thing was I wanted to keep my brand of Tropical Realty. I built 13 years of a brand. It was my ego, right? And so we just became Tropical Realty brokered by EXP.
There you go.
And
Yeah.
so it was a game changer for my family. And like, there's a video out there my wife does. She was interviewed on what it did to our family and how much it changed our lives because she hated my brokerage.
She hated your independent brokerage. So it's
Hated it.
changed her life, you moving it under EXP.
Yeah,
That's
because
what you're saying?
I wasn't killing myself anymore. When I made the decision to do this, I made the decision to become more present.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
And that was, that was part of our thing. I remember having a conversation with her one night, and she's talking away and yak 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 yak, and if you see this, honey, don't take that as an
Yeah,
insult.
I was like, as a woman, I'm like, I don't know, yak, yak,
Yeah,
yak,
yeah,
yak.
yeah.
But
But she looked at me and she goes, and I was looking at her just like I'm looking at you, and she goes, you don't hear a word I'm saying right now. I go, not a word. And so the reason why I wrote the book, going back to it, I don't want people to do what I did. Losing $82 million was really, really hard in 2000, right? Really hard.
yeah, because that's like
It
160
doesn't it
million
doesn't
dollars now.
even hold a candle to the pain I feel for missing my kids grow up.
Uh,
And that's why I wrote the book in 90 days. It's needed. People need to understand you can run a better model for real estate that nobody does. They don't teach you this. They don't teach you how to run a business. They teach you how to have a crappy job.
yeah, it's a real. I'm excited to have you share what's in the book and some takeaways from it because I've been on that journey, the journey that you're sharing, and I think to your point, like not a lot of people don't talk about it. They're like, you're a team lead, you're doing great, great, great.
Look at me, look at me.
Right, you know what I mean? This is about you, not about me, except that I want to, for relatability for you and for people listening, when I was doing the REO stuff, because you remember for a long time, like that's all there was. And I was like chasing my tail, and working 85 hours a week. And I like darn near had a mental breakdown, never had time off, it was very, very painful. I did it for reasons, personal reasons, but when I looked at my numbers, like at the end of the year, like after the third or fourth year, I was like, my profit is like 10%.
Oh yeah.
And, money's leaking here and here because that was easy to do in REO, but that's another story. But I was like, this sucks. And so in that case, I got rid of that whole lead source. And then I had all this extra time and I had almost better profit and I had my life back. So there's a lot of different angles to look at it. But to your point, you know, there are a lot of things that agents and team leads don't look at, and we don't pay attention to the right things, whether it's lifestyle or money or both. You know what I mean? So can you tell us, tell us some things that people need to understand, about, like, whether you want to say what's in your book, or like what are some of the key mistakes that people make that are in the traditional compared to the modern team that you're talking about?
Well, first it starts with understanding why anybody uses you as a realtor. So I'll speak in front of 1,000 people and say, why do you think people use it as a realtor? Unless they've seen me speak before, nobody ever gets it right. They're like, well, because I'm honest, because they know I work hard, because they know me, all this stuff. The only reason why people will use you as a realtor, the main reason, is because you happen to be in front of them when they're thinking about buying or selling. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. That's it. So when you do that, now it's understanding, like, I got a background screen, but you have more business sitting on your phone than you'll ever need the rest of your life, but yet they'll go pay Zillow 40% of their revenue,
Right.
which is the silliest thing in the world to do. I can't believe it, because we know that statistically 7 out of 100 contacts are going to buy or sell a home this year. The number is actually 11 or 12, but I always say 7. I'm a expectations guy. That
Yeah.
low expectations deliver high. So yet I'll teach people how to do that and they won't do it. So the first thing is understanding how do you work your database? There's a whole understanding of business here to run this business. And then you got to look at what's the biggest time sucks in real estate. So transaction coordination, you should never be doing a transaction coordination. You should have a transaction coordinator and showing property,
Yeah.
right? So I don't show property. So part of my modern team model is if I have a buyer and I have one coming in shortly to buy, I'll pay someone $25 to $35 an hour to show houses. And then I'll see the house before they buy because I want to make sure I'm writing an offer on that. But I'll literally sell a house and work less than an hour.
Because
Right?
you're, okay, I got it.
Yeah, because listings, I mean listings. So here's your typical modern team now. There are no agents on your team. So therefore you don't have any babysitting. You don't have anybody calling you at, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock at night when you would be going, hey, I gotta write an offer. How do I, you don't do any of that. Right. I have no, when I was doing this, I don't have any agents on my team. You have an assistant who's the lifeblood of your business.
Yep.
You have an inside salesperson who's the marketing part of your business. And then you have a transaction coordinator. That's your team. Right? You do not need agents on your team. Now, it's changed a little bit because of the new laws with buyer representation and stuff like that. Most brokerages will require you to use an agent within the office to do
In
that,
the office.
show property for you, because of the buyer brokerage agreement, the way it's written. But the reality is, and I've almost did this year. I was tempted to go sell 100 homes this year and work maybe 20
Okay.
hours a week doing it. But then I realized I'm 64. What the hell can I do that for? I don't want to
Yeah,
do that.
that's
I have
right.
no desire to sell homes anymore. But anyway, so the key is how can you sell 80 to 100 homes a year working 30 hours a week? If you truly run this from as a business, you don't ever have to be there. Like for instance, I would never, if I was going to do this today, I wouldn't even do listing appointments. I'd pay someone $250 an hour and have them master, $250 an appointment, have them master listings. And I'd just be a lead generation machine, which is easy.
So just for people that might be listening, so some of the things that go into my mind that says, you threw out something that was like, I could go sell 100 houses a year and work, what'd you say, like 30 hours a week or 20
Yeah,
hours a
25,
week?
30 hours a week, sure. Yeah.
And then, so the first thing somebody's going to think, so for me, not to challenge, but just to walk through what somebody might be
Challenge me
thinking.
all the way. I'm good at
Okay.
challenges. Go for it.
So if you sell 100 houses a year, you have to have a lot of how many leads and then how many inside salespeople, like the logistics of that, like, and not to,
Yeah, sure. Well, it depends on how you want to generate your leads. Like, so I'll give you an example. I have 2,500 leads in my system, in my phone, right? So if and I have another couple of thousand leads from other stuff back then, but let's use we'll just use 2,000 because it's an easy number. So 2,000 statistically is 140 sales. So if I do my job correctly, I should be able to get somewhere between 75 and 100 sales out of that.
as long as you have good quality leads.
Well, we know 7 out of 100 is going to buy or sell a home.
Right.
So it's a matter of being in front of them when they're looking to buy or sell.
Lead follow-up.
Yeah, and the follow up, the
Scripts,
lead. So a lot of
dialogues.
it's done with the right email system, right, and the ISA, the inside salesperson is making the phone calls. But that's handling all that. The assistant manages the whole process. So I don't manage. So my job is really to generate leads, however I want to do that.
Yep.
And that's about it.
Yeah.
And then interact with the customer just to say, let me tell you how I run my business. Because a lot of people will say, who's watching this will say, well, how am I supposed to tell my customer that I'm not going to show them property? So let me just do a quick role play with you, okay?
Okay.
So Kim, let me explain to you how I run my business. And by the way, you'll never hear me say how I do my job. It drives me crazy. So Kim, let me explain to you how I run my business. My superpower is finding your home. And by the way, I still like to look at homes for people, look up homes for people. It takes me 10 minutes to find the
Right.
homes to show them, right? But I enjoy that. It's fun. So my superpower is finding your home, uh, negotiating the best deal you'll ever get, and making sure it closes. That's my superpower. That's what I do. What I don't do is I actually don't show property because I have agents that work for me that will open the doors and show you the properties because anybody can open the doors, right?
Yes.
And they all do, and I wait for them to say yes or shake their head up every time, 100% do that.
Mhm.
And that's it. I've never lost a customer.
And they're
Ever.
like, okay.
Yeah, okay. And then I'll now I use a program called Showing Team, which is phenomenal. So if anybody's interested, I can show you how to get that program. It's an amazing program. But
Okay.
you really literally just go in and put it out. Before that, I was putting out an email to my agent, say, who wants to show a property? I'll give you $25 an hour. And then what I do is I give them a 10% bonus. So let me give you a scenario. Let me walk this
Okay.
back for a second so you can understand
Yeah, let's
the
walk it through. Like, I'm sure a lot of people are going like, you know what
yeah,
I
it's a lot of
mean? But
stuff. It's a lot of information. But I want you to understand as a business person, how stupid our business is as the rainmaker, right?
yeah,
So here's your typical team model. So Kim, you're on my team, right? I get a lead. I say, and by the way, if you're on my team, what does that mean? That means you're new or newer,
that's right.
right? And so I'm going to give you a lead, and hey, go show property. Now you're going to go come back and say, hey, they want to make an offer on 555 Main Street, right? I'm going to have and this is how I ran my team. My assistant would write the offer, and I go, Kim, go and sit next to Kelly or Pat or whoever. Pat's my general manager now, but back in the day was Kelly, and watch how she writes the offer. I'm going to negotiate the offer because you can't do that. You're new, right? But you're going to
Mhm.
listen to me. I'm going to help you grow and help you become better. And then you're going to go to the inspection. You're going to come back. I'm going to renegotiate the deal, however that may be. And then you're going to go to the closing. You've got about 5 hours into the deal. Now, a typical team model on a $400,000 sale, we'll say, is I'm going to give you 50%, right?
Mhm.
So I'm going to give you $5,000, $1,000 an hour to open doors.
Yeah. I mean,
Does
if you
that?
could, yeah,
I mean, that's ridiculous.
yeah. I mean, even if it
Ridiculous.
was 10, if for those naysayers out there that are saying, yeah, but nobody can find a house, like nobody can
I
go
saw
find
10
a house
hours,
in a couple
500
hours.
bucks an hour, right?
Yeah. Let's just say that
Yeah.
it takes you 10 hours to go find a house,
Yeah. In fact, we did numbers once. That was actually the average time for a buyer was 10 hours.
10 hours. Yeah.
And but if you think about that, who makes 500 bucks an hour? Definitely not anybody who's ultra schooled and stuff like that, right? So when I took a step back and took a look at that, I'm like, oh my God, this is the stupidest business model in the history of business models.
Right.
Right. And here's the other part. Here's the caveat. The agent, Kim, you being my agent right now, you resent me because I'm only giving you 50%.
Yeah.
You're like mad at me because I only gave you $500 an hour, right?
Well,
So
go ahead.
yeah. So with my model, instead of paying out $5,000, I would have paid out $1,200 because what I do is I give a 10% bonus. So if you write an offer on one of for my lead that I gave you, I'm going to give you a 10% bonus. So you're making 1,200 bucks, right? Which is probably still 250 bucks an hour or $120 an hour if you want to do 10 hours, right? And you get to stay in the business because why do people leave the business? Because they ran out of money,
Yeah.
right? So when I really analyzed the business, I said, why would I pay someone $1,000 an hour to show houses? Well, 500, whatever that number is, $500 an hour. And by the way, I have two teams in California. I'm transforming into this modern team model now, and they're averaging $3,500 an hour. They're paying their agents to open doors.
Because they're doing it the traditional way.
Well, yeah, and their homes are $2-3 million.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's two things that happen here. You make more money
Hmm.
because instead of giving out 5,000, I'm only giving out 1,200. So I make $3,800 more on that transaction on that $400,000 sale. But more importantly, you're getting freedom. The reason why I'm saying stop chasing money and start chasing freedom, you don't ever stop chasing money unless you consciously stop chasing money. And I'll give you the example. When I made my first million at 23, I was like, how do I make my second million? How do I make my fourth million? How do I make my 10th million? How do I get to $82 million? Right. And that was all I focused on
Is
instead
the
of being a
money.
dad.
Gotcha.
And I'm going to tell you, if you're listening to this right now and you're a mom or a dad or a son or a daughter or whatever you are in your life, that's more important than all this crap.
Yeah.
This is just business, how to make money. I'm not telling you not to make money. I'm telling you to run it like a business so you're not killing yourself. Right?
Yeah.
If you can't go away for a week or two or a month, you don't have a business. You got a crappy job.
You're 100% right. And anybody that's new listening, it's really a great opportunity, even, when you're growing your business, to work with somebody like, Mitch has all these leads. It's like, it's such a blessing. Like you said, if you run out of money, Mitch, or you don't have enough money to grow your business, then you're out of business, so to be able to partner up with agents that have leads that can that can feed you money while you're even, so they're able to still go work their own leads, even, they don't have to be
But you
under
got to
a
be, but you got
brand.
to be,
How do you
but
do
you got to
that?
be careful. Yeah. So
How do
the
you do that?
traditional model is also a prison, right? And I built my brokerage based on that, by the way, is if I give you leads, you're going to be addicted to my leads and you can't go build your own business. So I'm not a big believer in agents being on a team. And I get it. Most people give away 50% of the money because they don't want to generate their own leads. I get it. But again, most people won't take the time to get their money out of their leads out of their phone,
That's right.
right? Or out of social media. I mean, the average person that I meet with as a new agent that's they got their license generally has anywhere between 500 and 1,000 people in their phone.
Well, I mean, it's true. You know what I mean? That people have it. So I just want to make this like super clear, for myself or people that are listening. And then
Uh,
where do they also, real quick, where do they find your book? I mean, we can drop a link. We'll drop a link, but on your own website, you want to just go ahead and say like, where are the places they can find you and find your book?
So you can get it on Amazon and pay the $20 for it, or because I don't care about money. Or if you email me at mitch@mitchrealty.com, I'll send you a PDF for free.
Okay. So Mitch
Yeah,
at
Mitch@mitchrealty.com.
Mitch@mitchrealty.com. Perfect. And then you'll send a copy. So I love that. And so the idea, in a quick summary, let me see if I got it, is that the modern agent, the modern team isn't really like the umbrella, like let's just say Kim Barber Group, that I have 5 buyers agents and then they all report up to me and then, et cetera. It's, you have your own team, and then you have your assistant,
Yeah.
which is important. You have an inside salesperson, and then you have showing like your assistant, your transaction coordinator, and
Showing
assistant,
agents.
inside sales, transaction coordinators, and then you have relationships with other
Mhm.
licensed agents that are in the brokerage that you can pay to show homes for you. Is that right?
Yep. Every time I send an email, we have about 140 people here locally in my group. Every time I send an email, I get 10 to 15 people say, "Hey, I'll do it. I'll do it."
Okay. And then
Every
you
time.
pay them how much? Tell
So it
people
depends on where
about
you
this.
are. So
Okay.
I pay between 25 and $35 an hour, depending who they are. In California, they're paying $75 an hour.
Okay.
So it just depends. And then I give a 10% bonus.
Okay. So
By the
25.
way, yeah. And
Okay.
same thing with my ISA and my assistant are both licensed. Very
Okay.
important. They're licensed because I can pay a smaller base and pay a percentage.
Okay. All right. So they're here in the US. You don't
Yes.
use people that are
I don't know.
overseas to do
I'm
business.
not. So let me explain it. Let's hit on this real quick about inside sales. I know we only got a couple more minutes, but
Yep.
inside sales is probably the most important. Beside your system, they're all important. But if you're not the person that's going to pick up the phone, which most realtors are not, you have to have an inside salesperson. So what we learned, and I had an inside sales company at one point, we were getting about a 3% conversion rate from our inside salespeople that were not licensed. But in
Okay.
my brokerage, we got a 6%. And the difference was, as a licensed person, they can talk about real estate.
That's right.
And so when they did all their calls, oh, I saw you're looking at 555 Main Street, or they can go in, they can pull it up in the MLS, they can look at it, they can have a whole conversation about it. They can talk about the area, they can talk about anything they want because they're licensed realtors. Uh, and for me, I was able to pay a smaller base, right? So I paid a $2,500 a month base
Okay.
and 5%. So it was a $60,000 or $70,000 job, right? But And there's tons of people who will do it. There's tons of realtors that want to stay in business, want to stay in the real estate business, but can't because they can't afford to.
They need
And
that
or they
outreach.
can't work weekends because they have kids. I just was coaching an agent right before I got on this call, and that's her problem. She got kids. She can't work weekends.
That's right. So
Yeah.
so then you have the opportunity to work that during the week, be an inside salesperson, make your percentage that way. And then heck, if they ever, in the future, if they ever want to become an agent,
Yeah.
they could, it's a great way to do it. So a lot of people I know need that stability.
In fact,
So,
Julie Inman, who's the ISA manager for EXP, is my ISA manager for 16 years.
oh, wow.
Yeah, she was there with me for 16 years. Yeah, it's great.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, these are such great things. I'm thinking about all the people that have come to me for coaching. I have one client who's like, my goal this year is to add 12 agents. I want to get out of transaction coordination. And so I'm going to ask her to listen to this. I'm going to ask her to get your book because, we can tell people how this works, but the more input that they get and the more ideas that people get and the more experiences, the more successful that they can be. And then they can figure out, hey, is this going to work for me or it's not going to work for me? As a fellow team lead who does not have the depth of experience that you have, but has been on similar journeys, it is so laborious to generate leads, pay for that. And even when if you're giving away, if you will, if you're giving the other agent, a team agent, 50%, the reality
Right.
is that we are making less than 50% because we've carried all the risk, all the money to
Right.
generate the leads, all the
Well,
staff.
let's say you're not getting 50%.
Right.
You're getting like 10%.
That's right. And that's what people don't realize. And like, oh my gosh, all these systems and all of this costs so much money. So I love the fact that you're bringing this model out,
Right.
reminding people that this is the better way to go. And of course, we all know that we have kvCORE, or anybody who has a CRM at your system allows you to manage all your leads and kind of share the lead content with people, and expand and do your follow-ups and all that. So I'm sure you have all those systems as well. So
We go through all that. That's the importance. It's a step-by-step process
yeah,
because you have to understand how to generate leads. You have to. One of the first exercises I do is I make people track every day, every minute of every day for 7 days. A lot
and
of
is
people
this in
don't
your
understand.
coaching?
Yeah, a lot of people don't understand that the amount of time that they say they're working, they're not working. We did a
Right.
study with our agents years ago, and our top agents that were making $100,000 plus a year were averaging, when they actually took out the stuff, that the fluff, they were working about 3.5, 4 hours a day.
Yeah.
But
I
they're
believe
working
it.
10, 12-hour days doing that.
Yeah.
So
Busy day. Keep
we
busy.
teach time blocking and stuff like that. There's a lot to it. It's not just, hey, this is how you run this team. You have to have we teach a business plan. We teach how do you run a business that's going to work for you so you can have a life. Because again, my passion is children. I love my kids. I love my grandkids. And for the first time in my life, I'm being an amazing grandparent now.
That's great.
And because I realize that money is, you can't take it with you. You're not going to lay in your deathbed and go, I have $10 million in the bank.
That's
You're
right.
gonna say, remember when I took the kids to there? Or remember me and my wife did this? And
That
and,
memory.
and there's a great book that everybody should read called Die with Zero.
Die with
Um,
zero.
yeah, phenomenal book, and that changed my life too. That's accumulation of turning 60, and then within the year, I read this book, Die with Zero, in 2021, and that's what really put me on this path that I'm on today.
No, I love it. I just wrote that down. Die with zero.
A
So
great book.
how do people get, like, you've started a coaching company.
Yeah,
Can you tell us, like, what are some things you want to leave with people? How can they reach out to you? And then we'll also put some links
sure.
um, in the
Yeah, so MitchRibak.com is my website. It is not finished yet. We're not launching the coaching program for another 2 weeks.
okay.
We're in the middle of doing all the videos right now.
So that's about February
Yeah,
2020.
by February 1st, yeah. I
Okay.
should be launched by then. And yeah, just reach out. And what I do like 15-minute strategy sessions. I am not a high pressure person. I am not going to sell you anything. And honestly, I'm going to be really picky about who I bring on to work with, because I don't want to work with everybody. I want to work with people that really, really want to get their life back.
Good. I
Yeah.
love it. I love it. Well, you're doing great work by sharing this with people, Mitch. It's definitely a new model. I've heard some of this ideas before with higher showing agents and things like that. But I love this as a team lead. It's very refreshing to be able to live your life and not have all the drama and stuff that you also end up managing. So thanks for sharing this. I'm excited about your new coaching and the things that you're offering to people in your coaching business. So look for the links below. I'm thankful that you were here with us today. And so everybody else that joined us in today's podcast, I hope that you have taken some good, valuable insights. This is stuff that's very, I don't know if you'd say cutting edge, but it could be considered that, because it is something, like Mitch said, we can't take it with us. Such a good point. And you're not going to hear this from most agents, because most agents have a job.
Yeah.
So great. Thank you for joining us, and
Pleasure.
see you next.
Thanks.